And so welcome everybody. I wanted to start today off with just a check-in. Just to kind of go around and see how everyone is. As well as like of the two different like exercises we've been starting to play with, because the next one we're going to move into today is going to build off of that. So I just want to see how everyone is and share whatever you're comfortable with, whether it's pertaining to the work that we're doing in this container, or whatever might be coming up.
Well, I could get started. The guided meditation we did before and connecting with the different parts of the body brought to my awareness just how disconnected I actually was from those parts of my body, actually feeling the feelings that are in those areas of my body. So I kind of have been practicing connecting more with those areas and allowing myself basically to feel my feelings, a little bit more. And I feel like I had a bit of a breakthrough with emotionally, because I've been able to feel my emotions a little bit more deeply than I was feeling them before I started the group, which is great, because then that's how I can consciously process what's going on with me and my healing and everything else. But it's also just kind of started to transform my my consciousness and how I connect in the world. And I mean, just being 2 years into the pandemic, mainly sheltered in place, I've isolated and have disconnected from so many people, and just being able to open up again a little bit more emotionally and feel myself and my own emotions has allowed me to want to connect with people I haven't connected with in a long time. I'm starting to feel more towards other people. So I feel like I'm just emotionally opening up and letting myself out a bit. So not too rocky of a road yet, but I'm grateful, and I'm kind of excited to play with the emotions. I'm actually was thinking about dance and music and how music and emotion are so tied together for me, such an intense way. It actually reminds me of the exercise we did years ago where we played music and I emoted and you took pictures, and it became the cover of the last book I published. It reminds me that that's the kind of, not maybe emoting to that extreme where it's like emote as much as you can, let it out. But I feel like kind of connecting to myself a little bit with movement and music today, maybe. So I may have to go dark and turn off the audio on this end. So I'm kind of excited about that. That's kind of where I'm at in this journey for right now.
Thank you, Tavius. And I appreciate you bringing in movement, because that was one of the things, like especially tapping into whatever the emotions or the information that's coming through in those different parts of our body. Of like movement is the next way to start to like undulate out into the world and out into form. So that kind of organically leads into how to follow what is coming through, and just trusting that. Thank you.
I could go. I am sorry about the cat meowing. I've got my little familiar here hanging out with me, and she likes to talk when people are talking on Zoom. So my life has felt like kind of a whirlwind since we last met, because we moved in the time between then and now. We moved from a giant 2-floor, basically rent control apartment with 7 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms into a tiny, tiny place. It's really beautiful. I love it. But the physical and emotional labor of like divesting of so many of our belongings and trying to do that in a responsible way. And then the move itself and the setting up and everything. I'm sure all of you have moved at some point. It's like relentless. You keep thinking you're done, and then there's just this long tail of like stuff to get at the old apartment and clean up and all the things. So it's been very consuming. And I took a full week off of doing almost any work, which was like for my business, which was great because I got to just kind of be with the physical and emotional labor of the move, and let my mind just kind of percolate. Like everything was just simmering on the back burner, which is so helpful. I really long for more of that kind of time with my projects where I'm walking, I'm moving, I'm just being a body in the world, in the present, and letting these ideas kind of take shape almost on their own, you know? So I do feel, while I do feel exhausted and also maybe have COVID right now, getting tested tomorrow. My son, I think, has it. He's home from school. Um, I also feel like mentally, I feel somewhat restored right now. Um, and yeah, I'm not upset about what I'm about to say. I'm like kind of bemused by it and normally would be upset by it, but for some reason I'm not right now, which is the ever like the deadline, or not the deadline, the starting point of things, of me being able to go back to work keeps getting pushed out. It's like I thought I'd recover from my dental surgery faster than I did. So missed a few days of work there. The move ended up taking way longer than I expected. More delay there. And now my son's home from school, probably for the rest of the week. More delay. So it's just this kind of like long period of like, you don't get to go back to work. Even though I have, you know, in some small ways. And I think it might be showing me that there's a different way to think about how I do my work than you start in the morning and you keep going till the end of the day. Because I've actually been doing things, I've been tracking people and showing up in different ways for students and just having these days that feel really different than what I normally experience as like long productive days, which are never really that productive actually. Um, so there's that. And one thing that kind of punctuated the move week is that I had my first meeting, kind of orientation, in a class that I'm taking in an organization called the Alternative Art School. And it's very global and it's taught by artists around the world. So it's outside of academia. It's not kind of, it just isn't stuck in the same kind of paradigms that the art school and grad school and teaching academia in the US art world was for me. And it marks the first time since I really broke up with all of those parts of the culture that I've like entered into something as an artist. It has nothing to do with like my business or anything like that, unless I wanted to. Um, just being with other artists, talking about art, like kind of on a global scale. And it's super exciting and fun and kind of scary. And you know, I like cried my way through the meeting because it was so beautiful, like hearing the teachers talk about what they're working on and what they want to work on with us. It's like political and grounded and connected and just incredible, hopeful. And that happened. And then I dived right back into the move. So I don't feel super connected. Like I feel like the last time we met was like a year ago. And so I'm looking forward to tonight being like a time to reorient and remember this work and see how this all lands in me with all the change that's happened. Because the last thing I'll just say is moving into a new place is, there were a lot of hard things about being forced to leave the place we were in because it got sold and it was really a home, and like more of a home than any place I've ever lived, I think, since I became an adult. But the new place is full of fresh start energy. Like it's on a river that I can see from the window. And I just feel all this flow happening. And I've been waking up in the mornings and having like fresh choices, like just very clear, like, well, I'm awake before everyone else. The sun is rising. I'm going to get up and just do yoga for as long as I want. Very radical decision for me to make. So I think there's a way that there's just a big opening right now for me to kind of be able to act on intentions and feel connected to myself, stuff like that. That's my long update. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. The one question that did come, is there anything, because everything is in this newness as well as in flux, and I completely understand how it can feel like lifetimes in a matter of like a week or two. Is there anything that feels or sounds nourishing in the time we have as you start to reconnect in?
You mean for today, for tonight?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. I think I just feel really open to whatever's here, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, I feel really open.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
All the nourishing practices are good for me right now.
Right on. Very cool.
And I also might end up lying down at some point. Like I can just feel myself starting to get sick. So
Oh, totally. And I'm sorry with the internal illnesses too.
yeah.
So I feel like I was, the things that we're building on in this course program experiment is like, I feel like I had them with me, and then over the weekend, like enough stuff infiltrated my energy field where I just like I dropped them all, which is not that much time, but it's really less about the dropping of the things that I'm having a lot of. I said to you, Monica, that I felt scattered, that like a pattern has repeated itself in my daily life, where people who are important to me need something from me, and I show up and I help them take care of the things they need. And then my vision, like let's say what I'm working on in this incubator, my vision gets dropped, like it just gets set aside or it falls aside, and it gets further away. And there's like this thing that happens where I have to reset. I'm like, okay, well, what are my values? What do I care about? And like have to bring it all back. I don't have to do that very often anymore, but it was just sort of a series of events that led to me kind of dropping the vision over the weekend. And it's again, it's less about the dropping of and the frustration with the things that want something from me while I have needs that are not being met. And I don't know how to not tend to people who are important to me or tend to a situation that could get worse if I don't engage with it. And I'm just having a lot of griefy feelings right now that I haven't really connected to or thought much about until Amy started talking about the move. And it's her describing like how, like for Amy, it's been bemusing how work keeps getting pushed off, and it's, you know, it is what it is. And that work getting pushed off thing for me is so distressing. Because I'm like, I feel like I'm engaging with this trust fall, and I just keep falling. And I have to move this weekend. Like I have to partially move this weekend. My landlord is doing some major renovations, and I agreed to leave for a month or so while they happened and not pay rent and leave the majority of my things here. And then in the next few months and maybe over the summer, he's going to list the house and sell it, which he totally should do and market in Oklahoma City today. And it kind of coincides with me moving in with my boyfriend anyway. So I don't feel house insecure in that way, but all those things that took me off of the work and the vision last weekend, and then the things coming up. I forget this woman's name, but Amy, I think you worked with her as a client maybe a year or so ago. She helps people kind of design their small businesses.
Michelle Werner.
Yes. She wrote an email a couple of weeks ago about how like the reason we can get so overwhelmed is because like we can only handle about 3 major projects at a time or 3 things at a time. And you know, like how I even replied to her email. Like I sent her a note. I hardly ever send people notes on their newsletters, but it was so relevant. And with all the changes that are coming, I feel like the vision is getting further away. And, you know, I don't know if that's true or not, but it's how it feels. And this move is also kind of triggering an old trauma of when I moved in with a boyfriend about 10 years ago, and things ended really suddenly after we had blended our families, and I had bought a house for us and like, or used my credit and my down payment for us to have a house, and what a nightmare that was, and how it changed me as a person. And there's just so much on my plate right now. And I keep thinking about how relationships are so important for us to heal this situation we're all in as a culture, and how community care is so vital to healing us human beings, or at least us Western ones. And I know how to show up for people. But I don't know how to receive it, and I don't know how to ask for it. And I find little pockets here and there to do that for myself, but I wish there was a quick way to tell a whole bunch of people the kind of work I do and how good I am at it. So they can just hire me, so I can just work. I want to tell them how hard this is right here. The spot that my business is in. And how, and like the, I don't know. I kind of want to stop talking right now because like I didn't know that there was a Pandora's box to be opened. Yeah, so maybe scattered was inaccurate. Like, what's messier than scattered? Because I feel like that. Um, and I can't help but notice that I haven't even been having these feelings today, other than just being like, man, I feel overwhelmed and behind at stuff. Like that was how it felt today. But sitting with us four, something feels safe enough to unravel.
I see you and I hear all that you're holding and have been holding. And trusting that when you want to practice asking for what you need or for help, I'm here. And there's no rush and there's no hurry of not doing it right or not doing it on time. And I really thank you for showing up all that you are. May I ask in this moment, is there anything that you need or want?
I don't think so. I I'm just really appreciative of all of you listening so intently at me and the knowing nods.
Mhm.
We all know what this feels like, or some version of it. I have an elderly basset hound who needs out for no reason at all.
Mm. Are you feeling complete at the moment, or is there more?
I guess I'm feeling complete for the moment. I feel like there's plenty more in there, but like enough boil over has created some space inside the container.
Yeah. It's it's fascinating how we can interpret the confusion or scattered when it can be a sense of overwhelm or so many mixed emotions. And just being in a space where we can be, all of a sudden clarity comes of what it actually is
Mhm.
that we're holding. Thank you for sharing, Sherry. So, transitioning briefly about something that I named, and this is actually a perfect transition from Sherry's into the online community. One thing that I keep sitting with of like, and part of it was why it took so long for me to figure out where I wanted to host the online platform. Part of it was what feeling and what type of community I wanted to create. And it really truly is. And I've named this before, I think, individually to each one of you. But it's the real idea of like an actual, like an artist. I don't know why Coven came, but like an artist, like little den, where you have this intimate group who really understands the work, like the heart of the work that you're bringing through, and are able to really support and nourish. And so in sharing in the community, and each one of you read the guidelines and the agreements of having a space where we're really clear about what we're asking for and what types of feedback. And as the supporting role of reading what they're actually looking for. Because in that way, in a way, that's how we practice asking for what we need and receiving it, as well as we're crafting whatever these visions and these works and this artwork that we're trying to really bring into the world, is that it's a delicate baby in a sense that we're really experimenting and playing. And the more we have a safe space that we can experiment and play without the criticism and the feedback in ways that we're not ready, or even from lens that people don't have intentions of, I lost my track. Okay. People who are well intentioned, but they're putting their filters on it of shooting, and they're unaware of what they're adding to. And so really creating a space where we can feel safe to experiment and try, as well as experimenting to ask for help and experimenting with what that looks like and what that might be, is that's the type of community that my intention is for the online space. That felt messier coming out of my mouth. But so my question for each one of you, as we're experimenting with the online space as well as a way to engage, and we start to really put like we've been working with going inside with the guided meditations, connecting to parts of ourselves. Now we're going to start experimenting with bringing it into form, and how that might look is in the form of writing, in the form of art, in the form of whatever design that might be. I'm curious how all this is landing as far as questions, comments, concerns of creating this space, because it's an experiment. Each one of us in here, I'm sure, and I know, have been parts of different communities and groups before. And I don't know why this is so hard for me to language, but that's where I'm at right now. If there's any input, feedback, questions about the intention, about creating this together, about the needs that you have in the online space too.
This isn't so much a question or anything, but I just want to reflect on how I love my little Mighty Networks menu now, because the 3 things in there are the Visionary Syndicate, you know, my thing, the Visionary Incubator, us, and the Alternative Art School, which are like these 3 like powerful, like the Visionary Syndicate it's my work. So, you know, I give a lot to it, but it also feels like a resource in my life because I'm feeling inspired by the conversations in there right now. And the alternative art school and this space feel like such vibrant resources right now. And this one, I feel like I'm just starting to use it. Like I'm excited to be kind of diving in and using it. So Mighty Networks feels very cozy to me in that way. And I'm excited that there's only 4 of us in there. I wish for you, Monica, for it to grow and for there to be lots of people, and that'll be exciting in a different way. But it's really sweet to think about it just being the 4 of us. And I think I'm just voicing right now my intention to remember to go, to like maybe even put it in my calendar to go in there and see what's happening and to post. Yeah.
I appreciate the feedback, and I had a similar sentiment. The other person who kept stepping in and out ended up, this isn't the right time.
Mhm.
And the gratitude that it is a sweet little container for us to really to experiment and play, and it's sweet.
Mhm.
And the pacing is, yeah, there's a sweetness to it and a gratitude that I have for this space. So thank you. Mhm. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, coming into this, I was just excited to get hopefully inspired to be creative again. And I've been kind of off in that regard. So I thought I would be all these different projects I was looking at doing, that I would find myself inspired to work on one of these like external creative projects. But I'm finding myself having a healing arts experience. Creativity and artistry and self-expression are a huge part of who I am and how I heal. And so not so much an external thing as it is an internal thing for me right now. So I'm having this like journey back into my emotional self and a reawakening of the creative within. So right now it's just kind of like spiritual journey. It's just like healing journey. It's becoming more emotional again. So like I don't know, I can share the journey, but it's not like I have this external project like this book or whatever I'm working on specifically at this time to share about. But I'm happy to share in the group with the healing, the creative process in the healing art that I'm journeying with. So yeah, so didn't really know what the expectation was. I don't believe there was one, but I'm happy to share whatever comes up in the container, and I'm excited to see what other people are working on or doing as well. I don't find myself in a particularly specific external project. If that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. And just to remember that whatever you feel comfortable and called to share, the space is yours and ours to play with, to be able to do that and to name as well. And you named, even in one of the posts that you're writing, that you feel like you are a healing artist. That is the artwork that you are moving through. And so the more like classical or traditional forms of creativity or art, or what that external might be, I just felt excitement of the more you share of that thread coming through you. I got really excited right now. It starts to show all the different ways of the iterations that are coming through in the non-traditional, non-classical conditioned way of thinking. I could feel that like bubbling up. I got excited, the potential. And again, whatever you want to share is completely yours. So thank you. Cool. I got excited. Okay. Any other questions? Nuggets? Okay. So as I have been naming, like each piece that we've been working with has been building on the other. We started with a guided meditation of just going into stillness and connecting into the journey meditation we went into. The second, we started to go into very specific parts of ourselves and of our body just to see what's there, to start to connect. And today it was so clear. I wanted like just to play and start moving into form. The message that I put in my network as well as in the email that I sent out to everybody was to bring whatever you were called to bring. I, for whatever reason, was called to bring scissors and construction paper. And it is tapping into, and like even Tavius was naming something that was on my mind and awareness as well as movement, because when we go from stillness and start to feel where the energy wants to lead us to, that takes us from the mind controlling it and just following. I haven't done authentic movement in a while. Authentic movement being, if I drop into, I do want to name this for anybody who has never done authentic movement before. When I drop into my body and I just start to slowly notice if that's how my body wants to move. I feel this torquing and it moves. It stops. Oof. And I'm just following my body. And so if my body is wanting to go down, so none of this is how I am moving it. It is moving me. And if I feel like I'm directing it, I pause. Oh, and it starts to go forward. It's taking the meditations that we were doing and letting it start to release into motion. And what I enjoy with that is that, again, especially since we hold too much in our mental minds trying to figure it out, the more we can start to let our body movement lead and see where it wants to go, then we can start to actually play with the external expression. It's not coming from the figuring it out mind. It's coming from a whole like a similar process which you can do with process art and process drawing. It's not focused on an actual image that I'm trying to create. It's like, how does my arm want to move? How does it move on its own? And so it's just following and letting it naturally movement and moving it in that way. Has anyone ever played with process art or process or authentic movement before?
I have played with, I've done a little bit of authentic movement play with my friend Tiffany, who does, she teaches a lot of classes and has a lot of recordings about Feldenkrais and then some authentic movement, but very, very little for me. But as an artist and as an art teacher, I've experimented and explored a lot with like automatic art making processes and like intuitive art making processes and just things that are, yeah, not thinky brain directed.
Yeah. Sherry or Tavis, have you had experience?
Done a little, I've done a little tiny bit of authentic movement during, yeah, I did. And I've also done some, I forget what the type of dance, it's like improvisational dance with a partner. And it feels like it's an extension of authentic movement because it's improvisational dance. Say it again.
Contact improv.
Yep, that's it. I've done some of that too, which feels like a similar in like the letting go of the thinking part.
Mm-hmm. So this is an essence, is an aspect of that. And so using whatever materials you decided to bring today, I'm going to set the timer and I'm going to give us a while, about 25 to 20 minutes to really drop in. And it's just starting to play with this next level of skill of dropping and just taking, before, as we start in the beginning, I'm going to guide us into our bodies, just so we can connect. We have that starting point. And then from there, inviting each one of us to start to play in that space of like whatever, whether it's the head, the heart, or the belly, or just within our body, what wants to come forth and how does it want to come forward. And this will be taking it from the intangible into the actual tangible world. Any questions?
I can't wait. It sounds great.
Okay. And so Tavis, since I know that your plan was to go offline and do music, I'm going to guide us into our body and then dance away. Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Cool. So getting comfortable and however you're seated. And even maybe stretching or shaking your body if that's what it wants and needs. Bringing your attention to your breath when you're ready. Feeling your body move with each inhale and exhale. As it contracts and expands. As it opens and releases. Bringing your awareness to the top of your head. And gently starting to float down behind your eyes, behind your mouth, down through your throat, and down into your chest, and floating down through your heart, staying there for a moment. Moving back just a little. Yeah, so just fine. And from this place, asking what part of yourself is calling your attention. Who or what wants to co-create with you today? Bringing your attention into that space. Just noticing how does this feel? Are there textures? Are there colors? Asking how doesn't want to express. And when you feel ready, moving to materials and start to express. We have about 2 minutes left. That, so wrapping up wherever you are and whatever you're doing. I'm gonna pause and tap Tavius on the shoulder. Right back.
Tavius, Monica just went to get you.
Okay. So I am curious if anyone would like to share how that was, what might have come up, what was expressed, how the whole experience was for you.
Oh man, that was awesome. I haven't danced in a long time. I just put my shuffle play and my headphones on and turn off the lights. The first song that came on was one dance track that I actually made, and it was like, oh right, I get to connect with my own creativity, and it felt beautiful. And then a Frank Sinatra song came on, Soul and Body, and I don't even remember that song, but it was beautiful to dance to the small orchestra, and I was like, oh, it's just wonderful. So it was really enjoyable experience, and it gave me the idea of mixing music again, but doing it while dancing. So like dancing to the music and letting my body dictate direction of the music, and even wearing like a heart rate monitor and like getting the BPMs right on, and like going into a whole exploration of like movement and sound, and having that relationship again with myself. Maybe even with music, it was beautiful. Like, man, if I just got up and danced every day, how in shape would I be, and how good would I feel? Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I love, thank you for sharing that. And I also enjoyed the evolution of the ideas that were coming of how to play with it even more. And not only to play with it, but to co-create with what you're experiencing. Just a lot of fun and beautiful. Thank you.
I like spent the time, I guess, like exploring physical things. Like I I thought I had things gathered, um, but then I kept wondering, like I kept like remembering other things or thinking about other objects, and so I just started like impulsively pulling out whatever like my intuition was pulling out, and I pulled out this old picnic basket that is full of stuff from my grandmother's house. And like, this is not a special picnic basket, like it is just a storage object. Um, but I just started, and I mean, I think, but I think it started when I pulled out these crayons and smelled them. And then I smelled this candle. So there was a lot of sensory exploration. Like, and I smelled this candle that I think smells like my grandmother's house that my best friend gave me as a gift, not knowing that, you know? And then so I pulled out one of the grandma boxes out of my bedroom closet and started looking at photos of her siblings and her parents, and a lot of her like costume jewelry. Like, I'm putting this in my Amy Walsh box. This is like a little piece of, you know, inexpensive costume. I found two of them. So I was like, I've got two, one's going in the Amy box. And it brought up some continuous thoughts that I'm working on with this vision where I'm taking this business about like ancestry and intergenerational healing and where all this stuff comes from. And you know, there was a photo or two of my dad as a child, like under age 10. And I guess it just kind of felt validating, like I was being led to some information or led to some validation just by following my curiosity. The end.
I thank you. Thank you for sharing that, and how you phrased it at the end was so well captured. Of following your curiosity was also bringing up even the work that you've been trying to figure out, but it's leading you in a different way, and the information just kind of is surfacing. So yeah, very cool.
I was really interested in exploring movement and dance, but I also, as soon as the time started, noticed that my black cat Sunny had like very sweetly rested his chin on my knee and fallen asleep, and then Izzy came over and like fell asleep against my hip, and my blanket felt cozy and my headache is strong. So it's just like, okay, I think I'm being told to stay put right now. The creatures. So I started to draw, not, you know, just draw. I just started to draw, and was thinking about the river that my next body of artwork is going to be devoted to, I guess, or like in relationship with. So I was like kind of doodle drawing. I don't know how much you can see, just thinking about water, thinking about river, thinking about edges and boundaries. It's a river that's been really, you know, defined by human shapes. You know, it's been straightened and put into canals and pipes and all this. So I was just kind of thinking about that and thinking about the nature of water. And then a whole bunch of just straight up ideas started to come, just words and ideas. And I think, you know, what I was thinking was, like, I know that this project is going to involve map making, you know, creative, interpretive, intuitive kind of map making. And I keep sitting with like, what am I mapping? What are the layers of information I'm looking for? Just kind of thinking about it like outside in, like applying my ideas to this river or something. And the thought that came was, what is the river and my relationship with the river revealing to be mapped? Um, and can I connect to this body of water from across town right now and listen and listen to what this river being is showing me? Um, and so it was really interesting. I kind of went into a journey. I was like relating to this giant black squirrel, like the size of a dog, and seeing the trees, understanding the river as the trees and as the all the stuff that's going along on the banks as well. And so there's just all this kind of information coming in. And um, and I've had this question about what's the part of the art project that's like my crafting studio practice, because that feels really important to me, and what's the part that's about the connection to community and relationships to people along the river and around what's happening with the river and the future of the river. And somehow those two things felt much more synergistic in the ideas that I was having. Like they just felt like not like separate approaches, even though they are on the surface. And yeah, I just had a bunch of ideas about both the public component and like starting points in the studio. And one of the starting points in the studio being creating an altar space, which is where I bring things that I collect along the river. There's like I found a tin can that was so decayed that it just looks like an organic thing. It's like, it takes you a while to realize you're not holding like a piece of coral or something. It's a tin can. So like finding things like that for the altar that have a story that's being told to me or being shared with me, and having a regular journey practice around just communing with and connecting to the spirit of this river and the river's ancestors and all of that, and mapping from there instead of trying to do some kind of big research project for mapping that doesn't really need to be done. Like it's a different kind of research, I guess. So it was great. It was great to trust the process of the shapes and the lines, and then see what it seemed like. That just opened up something in my mind for ideating. Yeah,
it's very, very cool. I similar the process of just staying open to where it leads to. It's really beautiful to witness in each one of you sharing of how it leads to what really wants to reveal itself. Thank you for sharing. I'm excited to see each one of your processes continue to unfold. Yay. So yeah, I love this process. And it's one, I think, Sherry, you and I were touching on, like each one of these, like the meditations and these processes are ones that we can continue to go back to keep exploring as we continue to craft what wants to come through. And so I will have the recording up by Friday, and I'll send an email out. As well as I'm going to send out just a survey. I like to just touch in, and it'll be anonymous, but just seeing how everything's been flowing, as well as like your experiences with it, things that you want more of, things that perhaps not as much of. Again, there is a huge upswing with a nice, sweet little container of this crafting and this molding, as we're flowing together as we continue to evolve. But thank you. I really, really, I look forward to our times together. I really do. And next week we'll have the same support. We'll have the support group in the early afternoon on Wednesday, and then the co-creating space following that to come co-create together. But yeah. Any quickly danglers before we get to do? I just have so much gratitude. One thing that may I share that one thing that you're naming, Amy, that I'm learning for myself. I'm a very conditioned to do. And in this space that I've surrendered into this trust fall, and even like the evolving of this group has been like the ultimate trust fall. And all the things I haven't had to figure anything out. Everything's been in flow, even moving like I've had the vision of the overall framework and the container of the space, but the specifics have just appeared little by little, nugget by nugget. The more I've just trusted and been curious. And so I personally am enjoying that, how to replicate that. And as like the practice grows and the business grows, I'm not sure yet, but there is a sweetness to having so much space to follow, and living in a different relationship with the world and people. I think we more than ever need to slow down. So, any twiggly danglers?
Just want to say that was fun. Thank you for the play. That was just what I needed.
Me too. Play is important.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I really appreciate the safety of the space and the slow pace. And I think your choice to let this be a trust fall and to just be really present with it permeates the space so that it feels like that's what I can do in the space as well. That's what's happening here. So I can actually slow my busy ass brain down and, be really present to what I'm doing, what's coming through. So thank you. It's really helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you in the online space.
Bye.
Bye. Big hug.